making a bid to becoming the first Somali mayor in Minnesota. A mission reflecting on the African delegation pushing for an end to the war between Ukraine and Russia was spearheaded by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Nigeria is fast-tracking efforts to boost its power capacity following years of stifled growth. Good afternoon, our dear viewers. Welcome to the 1 p.m. news edition with Hazele, OGOIGBE, coming to you live and direct from Golfe AFRICA here in the city of Cotonou. Now to the news in detail, starting from the Nigerian scene. Now, Nigeria is fast-tracking efforts to boosting its power capacity following years of stifled growth. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed into law legislation to overhaul Nigeria's power sector, and the new plan will allow Nigerian state government to license and regulate electricity markets within their jurisdiction.
Nigeria has been battling inconsistent power supplies for decades. The infrastructure is also in need of an upgrade. The national grid collapsed at least 8 times last year alone. Many citizens are hopeful that soon power could be generated 24 hours a day as a result of the government's new electricity law.
4 days now, we are not getting any electricity. You know, electricity helps Nigerians to generate even the companies and other things to make Nigeria to grow up. If he can implement it to make this electricity be an impact for this country, I will be very happy for it.
We have good laws, but the implementation of these laws is the problem we have. So if he has signed that bill into law, then it's a good one. We applaud him for that. But if it doesn't work like the other laws we have that are not working, then of what benefit is it to us? But if it's going to work and then the state government can queue in and generate more electricity, then that's what we need.
Nigeria has a national electricity grid which distributes power to states. The new electricity law, among other things, authorizes states to issue licenses to private investors who can operate mini grids and power plants within the state. The legislation prohibits interstate and transnational electricity distribution and repeals the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, which was signed by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in 2005. Energy experts say guaranteed power supply will lead to more investment opportunities in the country and, by extension, a boom to the economy.
With this breakthrough, I believe me that this dependent on foreign goods, it will go and we'll begin to have industries. And that will create also employment opportunity, because our major problem is, if we look at our growth in terms of population, it's the opportunity for these young graduates that are coming out to work. Once a country begins to manufacture, it will less the pressure on the currency, and it will also add more value to the Naira exchange.
At the moment, Nigeria only generates about 5,000 megawatts of electricity every quarter for its national grid, which is not sufficient for its population of more than 200 million to power their homes and businesses. The World Bank says businesses lose about $29 billion annually as a result of unstable power supply. Industry analysts are calling on the government to ensure strict monitoring of investments in the sector to avoid exploitation of citizens. They say only then will the law positively impact the public and businesses.
To ensure that they regulate and checkmate the excesses of the tariff and also the undiscriminate assumption bills and other things. So definitely the regulation body will be there to checkmate to ensure that people are not being exploited.
The government says it's leaving nothing to chance. It has mandated states who will adopt the law to establish regulatory commissions and granted lawmakers the power to carry out oversight responsibilities through their committees on power. So far, Lagos, Edo and Kaduna states, out of the 36 states in the country, have initiated electricity market laws and can independently regulate their markets. More investors are now expected in the power sector to transmit, generate and distribute uninterrupted electricity supply for citizens, businesses and their properties. The ambition is that it will lead to improved lives for the public and increased economic fortunes for the nation.
Nadia Mohammed is making a bid to becoming the first Somali mayor in Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is the zone where there are a lot of Somali migrants. For information in this amazing report.
I'm running for mayor of St. Louis Park.
Nadia Mohammed, an at-large member of the St. Louis Park, Minnesota City Council, is vying to become the first Somali mayor in the state's history. Mohammed, 26, came to St. Louis Park, a western suburb of Minneapolis, as a 10-year-old refugee. In 2019, she made history by becoming the city's first Muslim and first Somali council member. She was also the youngest ever elected. Mohammed said her love for the city pushed her to run for the top public office.
I love the city. I love St. Louis Park. I've grown to love every part of it. I think this is a natural step towards the next step, right?
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, St. Louis Park has a population of about 50,000, mostly white, but its residents of color have nearly doubled since the 2000 census and now make up close to 20% of the population. Mohammed says she will focus on expanding access to affordable housing, promoting home ownership for people of color, and empowering small businesses.
The home ownership rates for people of color in St. Louis Park is very, very low. So I want to make sure that people are able to own their homes and build that wealth. I also want to focus on small businesses, making sure that people can come to St. Louis Park, buy their small business and own it.
Minnesota is home to the largest Somali community in the United States, and Mohammed says becoming a mayor is a way to show anything is possible.
I think it means that anybody can be anything, honestly. I think visual representation absolutely matters, right? But we're not here just to represent, we're here so that we can do good work.
Mohammed is currently the only candidate. The election is slated to take place in November.
A capacity building workshop was launched in Cotonou on Thursday to exchange and share amazing practices between those involved in the fight against human trafficking in Benin and around the world. More information in the following report.
The workshop is supported by the United States as part of the fight against human trafficking in Benin and around the world. This practical meeting will help to build the capacity of the various participants involved, says the Director General of the Evaluation and Observatory of Social Change.
L'objectif de cet atelier est d'avoir une vue globale des actions stratégiques menées ou prévues au niveau national dans les pays participants.
The objective of this workshop is to have a global view, strategic actions conducted or planned at national level in the participating countries. This workshop in terms of the fight against human trafficking in order to make strategic choices and plan various actions to be implemented by each NGO. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, during the course of the 2 days of work, we'll be giving presentations on human trafficking in general and the specific and strategic missions of the NGO in particular. The useful 2-day workshop was organized in collaboration with the National Structure for Combating Human Trafficking. The Deputy Director of the Office of the Minister for Development and Coordination of Government Action, who welcomed the initiative, was pleased. The workshop came to an end on Friday, with a number of recommendations being made to improve the fight against human trafficking, both in Benin and in the sub-region.
Uganda is heightening security and has commenced a massive search after militants linked to Islamic State groups massacred at least 41 people, mostly students, in western parts of the country near the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Uganda is heightening security and has commenced a massive search after militants linked to the Islamic State group massacred at least 41 people, mostly students, in western parts of the country near the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo. The country's First Lady, Janet Museveni, while updating on the current situation on Saturday evening, said the government was still investigating the whole incident.
However, the government, through the security agencies, is trying to follow up what actually happened, and it is on the top of the situation. We believe that justice will prevail.
Officials and witnesses said guns and knives were used in a grisly late-night assault, and dormitories were set ablaze at Lubiriha Secondary School in Mpondwe. Some students recounted the incident, terming it horrific.
We hadn't yet fallen asleep when we had people arriving and saying, "Open up, open up." We didn't reply. Then they started shooting at the windows and the doors. We went to hide under our beds on the floor. As they continued to shoot at the windows, one of us was hit by a bullet and started shouting, "Help, come and help me." When they couldn't open the door, they continued to shoot at the windows, then set fire to our dormitory while we were inside. They then moved on to the girls' dormitory.
The military said it was pursuing the attackers from the Allied Democratic Forces ADF, who also abducted 6 people during a raid on a school late Friday before fleeing back towards the Democratic Republic of Congo. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemns the attack and sent his heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, his spokesman said on Saturday. France also condemned the deadly attack in the strongest possible terms, a foreign ministry spokeswoman in Paris said on Saturday. Uganda People's Defense Forces UPDF spokesman Felix Kulagigwe said the 6 kidnapped were taken towards Virunga National Park, a vast expanse that straddles the border. Police have not released details about the victims' ages or how many were students. Outside the school, heavy armed soldiers and police stood guard as a large crowd gathered and distraught survivors were comforted by loved ones. It is the deadliest attack in Uganda since twin bombings in Kampala in 2010 killed 76 in a strike claimed by the Somalia-based Al-Shabaab group.
Still a follow-up on that story, a bereaved Ugandan town in the country's west began burying the victims of an attack by suspected extremist rebels. At least 41 people were killed in Mpondwe near the DRC border. In addition to the 38 students, the victims include a school guard and 3 civilians. Sadly, at least 2 of them, members of the same family, were buried on Sunday, the 18th of June. A bereaved Ugandan town in the country's western part began burying the victims of an attack by suspected extremist rebels. Sadly, at least 41 people were killed in Mpondwe near the Democratic Republic of Congo's border. In addition to the 38 students, the victims include a school guard and 3 civilians. At least 2 of them, members of the same family, were buried on Sunday, the 18th of June, 2023. The suspect attacked Lubiriha Secondary School border late on Friday, the 16th of June 2023. They burned some victims beyond recognition. Others were hacked to death. The attack, which left residents terrorized, is blamed on the Allied Democratic Forces ADF group. The group rarely claims responsibility for attacks. It has established ties with the Islamic State group. Atkins Godfrey Katube, a local member of parliament, said that the people were psychologically crippled and emotionally bleeding. The Allied Democratic Forces is not interested in capturing power because this is not Kampala. The power of the government of Uganda resides in Kampala. This is Kasese, the lawmaker stated. Ugandan authorities believe at least 6 students were abducted by the Allied Democratic Forces fighters. Now, the ADF have been accused of launching many attacks in recent years, targeting civilians in remote parts of the eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, including one in March in which 19 people were killed. The historic coalition of Ugandan rebels' largest group comprised Muslims opposed to President Yoweri Museveni, a U.S. security ally who has held power in the Eastern African country since 1986. Established in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in 1995, the Allied Democratic Forces became the deadliest of scores of outlawed forces in the troubled region where thousands of civilians have died. In President Yoweri Museveni's first comment on the incident on Sunday, he described the attack as criminal, desperate, and terrorist and futile attempts. Security forces stepped up patrols along the border with volatile Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. In late 2021, Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo armies launched an offensive against the ADF, which is the Allied Democratic Forces fighters. Uganda's deadliest attack occurred in 2010 when 76 people were killed in twin bombings in Kampala by the Somali-based group Al-Shabaab. Nigerians have begun lamenting the effect of the introduction of a 7.5% value-added tax on the price of premium motor spirits, otherwise known as petrol. Now, this comes barely a month after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed the subsidy on petrol during his inaugural speech on the 29th of May 2023, thereby raising the price of PMS from 888 naira to about 580 naira in different states of the Nigerian Federation. Nigerians have begun to lament the effects of the introduction of a 7.5% value-added tax on the price of premium motor spirits, otherwise known as petrol. This comes barely a month after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu removed the subsidy on petrol during his inaugural speech on the 29th of May 2023, raising the price of PMS from 188 naira to about 580 naira in different states of the Federation of Nigeria. Recall that the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, announced that the Finance Act 2020 raised the previous 5% VAT of the country to 7.5% on commodities including automobile gas oil, and it was implemented in February 2020. But the VAT-exempt items include honey, bread, cereals, cooking oils, culinary herbs, fish, flour, starch, fruits, meat, poultry, milk, nuts, pulses, roots, vegetables, water, sanitary pads, tampons, tertiary, secondary, primary, and nursery tuition. While other commodities have been VAT compliant, premium motor spirit was not until recently because it was being subsidized by the federal government of Nigeria. However, the new development has hit Nigerians hard, as many have called for an utmost review of it, especially because of the recent removal of full subsidies in Nigeria. The federal government of Nigeria has launched an initiative to provide renewable energy for people in poor communities. Now, this is part of the economic sustainability plan to promote industrialization and drive economic growth.
The Solar Connection Intervention Facility is one of the many initiatives of the federal government aimed at providing affordable electricity to communities through the Rural Electrification Agency. The provision of this long-term low-interest credit facility has recorded success in several states within the country. One of the states earlier visited by the Rural Electrification Agency shows that the initiative will cushion the effects of fuel subsidy removal.
Seeing how we can use this technology to replace some of the generators they are using currently with petrol. But as I said, this interaction is just an initial interaction. We'll now go back, work together with the developers, and most importantly, the state government and the market association.
Now in Lagos, the agency visited Makoko area where 9 large capacity solar home systems were deployed to power electricity in schools and clinics, and 18 smaller solar capacities to power some households. During the inspection of the site, the managing director of the Rural Electrification Agency says that this inspection is necessary to see how the agency can scale up its impact.
We have been able to reach a very remote area, which as part of our mandate for serving
of providing electricity to unserved and underserved areas. I think this falls exactly into the kind of places we have been looking for. We've been able to come and see the work that we have been doing under the National Poverty Reduction and Growth Strategy, where we had deployed, as you mentioned, about 6 to 9 months ago, systems for schools, healthcare centers, and homes.
Electricity is not just about energy access, but how it can transform lives. More people are able to do more businesses because there's access. Students are able to study in a better environment, and some hospitals at least and clinics can function, including religious centers as well.
This project is an eye-opener that renewable energy will continue to be a reliable source for electricity generation while improving the lives of Nigerians.
You're still tuned into the African Newspaper Review on Golfe TV Africa, and it's still the 1 p.m. news. Today, starting from the front page of the Punch, Nigeria. Now, this story says, Tinubu removes security chiefs, custom boss, appoints Ribadu and Egbetokun and others. And if you look at all the various pictures, these are the pictures of people that were appointed by the President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the story says, federal government Labour has set up minimum wage committee, and it says airfare skyrocket as exchange rate hits 702 naira for $1, and Tinubu woos foreign investors, meets Bill Gates and Airtel founder on the pages of the Punch Nigeria newspaper. Still on the Punch Nigeria, this is talking about the tribunal. It says, again, Labour Party and INEC lawyers clash over poll materials on the pages of the Punch Nigeria. Crossing away from the Punch Nigeria, moving over to the front page of the Nation Malawi. Okay? Now on the front page of the Nation Malawi, the story is saying, Malawi sees industrial park mega farm deals, and this one says, board justifies 13 million for CEO post shortlisting, and this story says, fresh lobby against same-sex relations. Catholics take same-sex relations fight beyond court. Bishops working on joint efforts. And this story says, group lobbies for sickle cell treatment on the front page of the Nation Malawi. Crossing away from the Nation Malawi, moving over to the front page, Liberia. Now, today on the front page, Liberia, this story reads, NPFL General on TRC, most notorious list Melvin Sogbandi dies. Angry victim says he escaped justice. Now, this story says NEC upholds Bility's leadership on the pages of the front page, Liberia. Now, crossing away from the front page, Liberia, moving over to the pages of the Guardian Post, Cameroon today. Now, on the front page of the Guardian Post, Cameroon, the story reads, Boer Division, and it says, Boer Division SDO accuses Mbiame phone aiding protecting Amber fighters on the pages of the Guardian Post, Cameroon. And on the Anglophone crisis, youths, members of parliament renew ICT scholarship schemes for internally displaced persons. And this story says, also indicts him for boycotting national events, leaking military itinerary to fighting, and alleges phone dying wines with Amber fighters, masterminds kidnapping for ransom. And this story says, talking about a partnership fronts plastic waste management through recycling. And let's just take this story that says, stop dabbling into our tradition of faith spiritual power. ESU Development Association warns Menchu SGO on the pages of the Guardian Post Cameroon. And with that, our dear viewers, this is where we conclude today's edition of the African Newspaper Review on Golfe TV Africa and also the 1 p.m. news with Hazele. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day.